I have an aunt that has always been like a mother to me. Since I was a little kid, I have always thought of her as another mom. I used to stay the night with her all the time. She had a couple of kids, just slightly older than me. We were all best friends. At one point, she lived in a small upstairs apartment. It was just a house that had an upstairs apartment. It wasn't a complex. So I was staying the night. She had gotten us kids settled down in our bedroom, and she had just gotten home from work. She had a baby. He was still pretty young, and she kept him in her room with her. Seeing as she had just gotten home from work, she was trying to get the baby fed and down for the night, and in between, she was trying to get out of her work clothes and into something she could sleep in. So, she laid the baby down on the bed, opened the closet door, and when she looked down, she noticed a pair of men's shoes on the floor of the closet. She glanced up and noticed there was a man standing in the closet, hiding behind her clothes. He obviously didn't see that she noticed him, but she kept her cool and acted like she didn't notice anything. She kept talking to the baby like a mom would do, changed her clothes, and acted like nothing was different. So she got the baby a bottle and turned the lights out, and she laid down, started feeding the baby and talking to him. After a few minutes, the baby fell asleep and she acted as if she had as well, though obviously that wasn't possible. After a few minutes, in the dark, she could see the closet door slowly open, and she saw the man very slowly creep out of the closet door, and then she heard him scurry down the steps. It's petrifying to know that I was in the room just across the hall. I will never understand how she was able to keep her cool, even knowing that there would probably have been a very different outcome if she had gotten scared and tried to run or do anything else. But it's something that has haunted me for a while. I am originally from a state where it is hot year-round, and I am not a big fan of warm weather. So when winter comes, I like to have my windows open and spend as much time outside as I can. Temperature averages around the 50s, but that's beside the point. It was one of those chilly winter nights. I was about 10 years old, and the only people at home were my two nannies and I. They were at the other side of the house, watching TV while I was in my room. It was getting late, and was likely around 10 o'clock p.m., so I decided to take a shower and hop into bed. Everything's fine. I hop out of the shower and get ready for bed. At this point, I should quickly go over the layout of my room. It is rectangular and has two windows facing the front door entrance to my house. From my windows, you can see a walkway to the front door, and the path is sort of gated in brick. Basically, you would have to enter the driveway, turn left, and walk down a path that leads to my front door. My bed faces one of those windows, and I can see all the way down the path. Both windows have a mesh screen. This is where things get scary. Like I mentioned earlier, I had the window that was facing my bed open to let the cold air in. My room was well lit, so it's hard to see anything through the window. However, as soon as I turned off the light, I could see a figure of a man with his face pressed upon the screen. In that moment, I felt his piercing gaze. He's motionless and smiling. He had facial hair that looked as if his whole face was covered in fur, and the hair on his head was the same length. I briefly thought I was imagining this, and was seeing something that wasn't there because of all the foliage outside my window. I had taken a couple quick steps towards the window to get a good look, before I confirmed that what I saw was real. This all happened in a matter of 10 seconds. I bolted out the room and towards the room my nannies were in. The hallways in my house are narrow and long and have large windows that face the entrance. I didn't dare look out. I reach the room my nannies are in and I tell them what happened. And they just laughed. To be quite honest, it was a boy who cried wolf situation. I was always a prankster and a bit imaginative, so it was hard for them to take me seriously. I had to beg them to check with me, and from what I can remember, they took it seriously after that. We get to my room and no one's there. My window screen is left untouched and the man is gone. I don't think they were totally convinced, and neither were my parents. I couldn't sleep in my room for days because of the incident, and nothing was done about it. My house didn't even have an alarm system, so there was nothing stopping this person from coming back. I am still very disappointed in how things were handled, and I had no power over anything. I have no idea how long that guy was out there for, and if he was watching me undress and dress myself after I showered. I remember how fucked up his smile was. I am glad that I was not harmed by this man, and that was his only visit. At least I hoped. I stopped opening my windows at night, and I missed the cool winter air. I was about 8 or 9 years old when this happened, placing it around 2005 or 2006. At the time, I was living in Southwest Florida with my mother in a not-so-great part of town. So one day, my mother is driving me to a scout meeting for girls. I'm in the rear driver's seat directly behind my mom. We're at a busy intersection in the turn lane, waiting for the light to turn green so we could make a right turn. This guy comes running down the middle of the road, like literally just running between cars on this main road. He is screaming, "Help, help, help, please." My mom sees him in the rear view mirror on her side, and although she is a kind person, she's also cautious. She cracks her window down maybe 4 or 5 inches to see what's wrong, thinking maybe he'd gotten into an accident or something. The guy comes running up to my mother's window and shoves his arm into the car, almost up to his elbow. He is obviously trying to open the door or hit the power locks or windows to get in. My mom, being the badass that she is, punches the shit out of this guy's hand a few times and you could hear a pop, then a crack. She must have broken at least one of his fingers. She rolls the window up and crunches his fingers some more before he can get his arm out all of the way. Meanwhile, I'm watching from the back seat, completely petrified and unable to move. He starts beating on the window, saying that we better let him in or he will kill us. At this point, the light turns green, and as soon as the cars in front of us turned, my mom burned rubber to get the fuck out of there. We make it to the location of the scout meeting. By this time, I'm no longer in shock and I'm freaking out. I start crying a bit, but everything is okay. My mom calls the police department to let them know what happened and that we fled the scene. The officer informs her that a Circuit City had been robbed, not even a block away from the intersection we were at. The suspect had fled on foot and eventually was caught, but the officer assumed that that was the man who tried to break into our car. At that time, I didn't think too deep besides being spooked by the incident itself. As I've gotten older, I think about the worst case scenarios. What if he was able to get in? Would he have hurt my mom? Would he have hurt me? What if he'd pulled my mom out of the driver's seat and driven away in the car with me? What if he'd had a weapon?